And guys, welcome to Monday, April 20th, 2026 with the Democracy Radio Network. I am your somewhat semi-politically savvy host, Abby Kaufman. And of course, I'd like to start by thanking every Democrat for everything they've done over the weekend. I'm sure people have been stuffing ballots and making phone calls and canvassing their neighborhoods and the truth of the matter is this is all hands on deck time. The storm is getting so turbulent that it is all hands on deck. So we would like every Democrat to come out, vote, volunteer if you can, and let's get back on the path to I guess why don't we call it salvation, since we're have the little uh, religious thing going on with the head of the current administration, whose name it kills me to say. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at some of the New York Times headlines over the weekend, because they are, I mean, they are the best newspaper we have. They have the best reporters, and they don't, everything they do is documented and backed up and investigated. And, to a uncommon degree, you can take their reporters to the bank. They're that solid. So, anyway, let's start out with. It was funny. I tend to jump right into the weekend editorials when it comes to the Times, because I want to hear what other people are saying relative to what's going on like now. And that was funny. On the front page of the New York Times opinion section was this headline and a great big picture: Great Ozempic experiment. Something about used for menopause, arthritis, and addiction. Now, the first one to tell you I'm a little ignorant about Ozempic. I kind of get that it's a weight loss thing, and you always, it's always good when people aren't overweight, just because it doesn't tax their heart or their other systems so much. But apparently, some enterprising person or creative person, or maybe just a grifter, decided, oh, I'll take this for menopause or arthritis or my addiction problem. Not realizing that may just become another addiction problem. But those are just some of your semi-politically savvy host thoughts on the matter. And the next thing that was really good, or the first thing that was really good, was an editorial written by a fellow named E.J. Dionne, who's been around DC for ages. And it was one of those good old kind of retrospective, let me teach you a lesson kind of thing. And the headline there was, Great Politicians Play the Hand They're Dealt. And EJ, I think he kind of tracked this back to Reagan. And you have to, if you have inflation on your watch, you have to deal with it, whether you brought it or not. Whatever whatever commands the attention of the United States commands your attention, or should command your attention if you had an attention span. And then we just move on over to Russia a little bit, and this was a great one. Putin just can't catch a break. Appears things are going much worse in Ukraine, and we should be really ashamed of ourselves for not jumping in with those guys in the first place. Even though President Biden was in office, I really would have preferred and they deserved a much stronger response from us and much more assistance. It does seem to an extraordinary measure that everything the current administration does is against the interests of Ukraine. And when I say Ukraine, I mean freedom, like free to vote and free to, do whatever it is. And they voted against Ukraine, against freedom, and in favor of Russian and Putin and the oligarchy. And keep in mind that, hundreds of thousands of Russian lives have been lost. They pay people to go get killed or maimed. And when they can't find enough of their own people that they can't send to get killed and maimed, they buy or hire, which means it's kind of buying people from other countries to come in and join the. God, this is disgusting to say. Join the meat grinder. It's cruelty on a level Americans may not understand. And this is just if you. One of my old friends' dad started CNN, and his son Teddy worked in the Moscow bureau. And believe me, what goes on in Russia is not what makes the newspapers. What makes the newspapers, strangely enough, is whatever Russia wants to make the newspapers. Even though you kind of get the feeling that that's happening here. Thank God it hasn't, taken over the New York Times. But anyway, and then uh, Ukrainians keep fighting back with asymmetric warfare and drones. And keep in mind that as many times as the United States, via the current administration, has rebuked Zelensky. Zelensky was the first to offer the United States help with drone technology, particularly in Iran. I mean, if somebody's got their head on straight, it's just not our guy. I mean, Zelensky clearly is a decent guy. Ukraine's not a perfect country. And I'm going to tell you something. If you can measure Ukraine by their value, you know what I mean? They've been there in countless ways. They give their lives to hang on. And like I said, it was freedom against enslavement, more or less. And we just, we let it happen. We didn't have to. I understand President Biden's constraints. And, I don't. I just wish he would have come down a little more favorably as far as shipping Zelensky the tanks and missile systems that he wanted when he wanted them. But that's been, at least President Biden realized the situation and tried to act to help make things better. What you see now are deliberate decisions. Okay, deliberate decisions made that just kind of consistently favor Putin and oligarchs and disfavor the regular guys. And, isn't that the perfect parallel for what's going on here? And so we'll get into some more detail, and that's probably all I ought to tease about that right now. But okay, now how about this one? And now we're moving kind of inside the editorial page. We haven't hit the highlights yet, but let's see that. How about Iran resisted a powerful attacker? Taiwan can too. And I didn't write down who wrote this editorial, but we've got to, and wouldn't that be wild if Taiwan adopted Iranian tactics or strategies? For instance, what if, and I have no idea what Taiwan's defense capabilities are. Up till now, the United States was a faithful signatory to the treaty that guaranteed that we would help defend them. But what if they, loaded up on drones? What if they loaded up on anti-ship missiles that could be easily hidden? Geez, I think Iran may be able to even help with that. It's how about some nice, cool air defense stuff? Blockade, mines. I mean, what if we just put a concentric ring around Taiwan? We need those guys in the worst way possible, despite the I used to call them distortions coming out of Washington, but I don't do that anymore. I just call them the lies coming out of Washington. And, everybody that's willing to look at things objectively knows what's going on. and this cult of corruption just is incestuous and it feeds on itself. We've got to get rid of him and it like ASAP. But anyway, so much for Taiwan. And yeah, they talked about the 14th Amendment, natural born citizen controversy, and I'm sure there's always two sides to a coin or an argument or story, but the problem is not that all sides aren't equal. And if we are a law-abiding country that goes by the rules as established by us, every person born in the U.S. is a U.S. citizen. I mean, you may not like somebody flying over from wherever at 8 months and was it 3 weeks pregnant to give birth, to spend the last week giving birth in the U.S. The truth of the matter is everything can be abused in some way. But we are the country that was founded on the simple thought that fairness requires letting 9 guilty people go free instead of imprisoning one innocent person. Now, clearly, we don't live up to those ideals anymore. Clearly, it's a lock them up and throw away the key thing, except in the Trump Justice Department for Trump allies. And we'll chat about that too, just because that's really a big deal. And let's see. Oh, and how about this? The oil companies have been sued for their role in climate change and environmental damage and ecological harm, and that's been pretty cut and dried. But lately, the oil companies have been asking courts to dismiss those sorts of cases or lawsuits because they want to be treated just like gun manufacturers. They don't want any liability for the that results from something they put into the chain of commerce. I think that's, and don't forget, the key to all this is denial of science, is denial of climate change and global warming and stuff that's beyond dispute. Again, that's there's people who believe in global warming, climate change, and those that don't. The difference is the ones that believe have years of documented scientific proof. If somebody doesn't believe, then it's like dealing with someone with the flat Earth, that believes there's a flat Earth. You can show them a cajillion pictures, and yet they'll say, no, I'll still think the Earth is flat and I'm going to fall off the edge. So, and that kind of argument, that's not even 90-10. That's like 99.9 to 1. So for all you guys that have an opposing viewpoint, take a look and see what your viewpoint is based on. And, it just might help you make a better argument, one for or against. I want everybody to be informed to the degree they're capable of being informed. Okay. And there was this thing about you can't game your way to a real education, which despite the kids that hang out and do the games and insist that there's, a future in this, I think the substance is pretty simple, that you might not want to put all your eggs in that one basket. Okay. Now this was the next one I thought was the point was interesting, and it was you should be able, and you should use AI every way you can, except, who knows what that exception is? Oh, did I hear somebody knocking? Yes, that exception is art, ballet, painting, stuff that is you consider to have been uniquely human, even though we know it's sort of images and pictures AI can conjure up, if we have the courage to ask. So, I'm a user of AI frequently. It helps me tremendously, and therein I do see how over reliance can set in really easily. It's and in order to have the relevant AI feel whatever it is they can feel, I try to converse with them in a conversational tone, like for Claude, Anthropic's AI. I really like those guys. Claude, how you doing today? You ready for a little hard work? We've got X, Y, and Z ahead of us, so let's go. And so my point is that the more people do that, the less AI becomes a tool and more becomes a means. And use it for God's sake. Use it if it helps you. Um, it's like every other genie that cannot be put in the bottle, or even worse, like the toothpaste that can't be put back in the tube. So when you use this thing, and if anyone's got any thoughts on this, give us a call, 949-629-3820. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we're here for two reasons. Well, we're here to give Democrats a place on the internet. Any Democrat, anytime, is welcome to come on. Plug your candidacy. Tell me what I can do to help. We want to elect Democrats. We want to elect more Democrats. Then after that, maybe some more. And then, maybe we'll take a little time off. But this is, I keep saying it, it's all hands on deck time. And like I say, what's your last gas tank or fill up cost? Give me a call at 949-629-3820 and let me know. I know my $100 fill up is now a $125 fill up. That means, and the school board math, I've gone from like $400 a month to $500 a month. Now, where that extra $100 comes from, God only knows. But that's what I am feeling. And we're broadcasting from Newport Beach, California, and I heard this morning about $8 gasoline. And in the hills of Beverly, you can rest assured that it's $8. Big Sur. Any of you guys ever been to Big Sur or know about it? Anyway, it's north of Santa Cruz and north of Cambria and San Simeon, and you got that nice long Big Sur coastline. But anyway, Big Sur is pretty remote, and it's designed to be, but it's remote. And gas, in any given instance, gas can hit $10 a gallon because it's hard to get it there, and it's expensive when you start with, especially these days. And while there's some correlation between the price of oil and the price of gasoline, everybody has been around this block before, and we know, we know what happens when gas supplies get tight, or any supply gets tight. Prices go up, demand goes up, and usually price follows. So let's getting back to the oil companies. I would not expect an ordinary court to go their way, and please God understand this, Trump has rigged everything. He's rigged the courts. He's rigged the legislature. If it can be rigged, he rigged it. And everybody was told in the run up to the election that he was the worst possible guy. And he convinced enough people to get elected. I think that he'll surely go down as the greatest con man in history. But the sad part is he's going to take the country. He is taking the country down with him. I check around the world daily, and trust me, nobody thinks highly of us. Nobody thinks we're the hottest country around. That's a killer. The hottest country around. Does he mean the hottest country around, or does he mean the hottest country in terms of desirability? Uh, he's just you can't. It's a Southern thing, and it's really true. You can't fix stupid. So the best thing to do is let stupid be stupid and let him go. The only problem is the stupid is the president of the United States. And I saw a good post when it said something, and I'm going to borrow from O'Kelly on this one. And the saying was something like, the dumbest SOB on earth and the most powerful man in the world should not be the same person. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. Just I think, and Mo gave me the expression "mother father," and we kind of we like that. We don't. I mean, I'm hardly a candidate for the sainthood, and I don't necessarily, vulgarity for the sake of vulgarity is just kind of passe these days. So if you have the opportunity and need the phrase, it's you mother father you. Okay. So the oil manufacturers, the gaming kids, the art. Oh, how about this? One can get this beautiful with time. And this was in praise of age, particularly. And I'm going to quote this to know that I didn't, kind of make it up. But that women of a certain age have a certain grace and stature bestowed by years of living. And, as I'm getting older, I see more and more stunningly beautiful women 60, 65, and well over. And I'm all for that. Strangely enough, I don't have a problem with women getting more beautiful over time. As a matter of fact, you see, if they could sell that instead of Ozempic, or in addition, how about that? How about if they sold Ozempic, the weight loss stuff, with some kind of aging is beautiful deal? I think we've got a winner. And you know what? It sounds like somebody's knocking at the door. Okay, let's see. Oh, how and the thing. It's just sad. Can the Trump federal choice, Kevin Warshaw, be truly independent? And I think we know the answer to that. And if he is independent, it certainly won't be for very long. Trump just has this need to control everything and everybody, combined with the very much disproven thought that Trump is the genius in the room, and that he's known. Well, what is it? He knows more about whatever it is than anybody else, and I guess it's kind of a corollary to all that. We're not supposed to believe the stories that he screamed and cried like a baby in the Situation Room when the Air Force plane got shot down in Iran. Yeah, I would kind of tend to believe the side of the story that comes down on Trump screaming and crying like a maniac, and they had to get him out to see about rescuing the poor pilot that got shot down, which we did, but it didn't. It like the whole Iran affair. It didn't have to happen. It didn't have to be that way. So, and lastly, this is a really good thing. And it was, I guess it's, kind of and the New York Times is great about this. They ask rhetorical questions and then answer them in the editorials. And I found might just have a little tendency to do the same thing. But this particular editorial was, where did all the affordable cars go? It used to be, I will go ahead and date myself. I think I remember when Volkswagen was like $3,000. And I remember, or $2,000. No, 19 something. And the original, the old Toyota Corollas, and so on and so forth. So what? And these things were bulletproof. They stayed on the road forever. They were cheap to repair, cheap to run, reliable. They were perfect. So where'd they all go? Well, even though wages haven't gone up, steadily over the last 50 years, we have had some incredible stock market gains. And anybody with any exposure to the stock market did really well in the last, 40, 50 years. Of course, there's been, glitches, but as a general proposition, things have looked pretty good since the inflation of the 70s went. So, uh, you can't, so the affordable cars. So what happened? So as people made more and more money, they were willing to spend more and more on their cars. And what Detroit and other automakers kind of noticed was there's more profit in the bigger, more complicated, technologically sophisticated cars. Any given bumper could be what $10,000-$20,000 with all the sensors in it. I cannot imagine like some Mercedes, big old whatever it is. So yeah, people just the 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 car makers were clearly innovating in some ways, and in some ways that maybe was a little too much. And as far as a little too much innovation, we'll cite the Cadillac 468 engine that would alternate between 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, and 8 cylinders, depending on how much you needed it. I think that was going a little too far, and it was a horrible flop. And but anyway, let's look at how about the original Tesla with the screen and all that. Oh, the Prius. Didn't the Prius really kick all this off? And as a general proposition, Prius owners are great. They believe in helping save the planet, which is why they drive them. All the old jokes about the pious Prius drivers were they were just inappropriate and wrong. So, what do you do if you want an inexpensive car? And what if you can only put together $3,000, $5,000? And there's and don't forget, there are tons of people who don't have $400 for an emergency. So how do they come up with $3,000 or $5,000 for a car? Well, this is kind of like a dirty Wall Street thing. And how about the used car dealer? What shall we call him? Geez, I don't know. How about Honest John? Let's say the used car dealer is Honest John's used cars, and you go to see Honest John. I always laugh because they're always Honest John, and you find an older Chevrolet that looks good, and it's in your budget, and for so much down, you can have it with low monthly payments of $100 a month, whatever it is. And your interest rate will they'll try not to tell you what it is, but you can rest assured it's pointing north, and it's pretty much bumping up against usury, if you know what I mean. And so anyway, let's say how about Joe buys the car at Honest John's, and Joe finances it for 3 years at $100 a month. And then let's assume that the lender, right, the Honest John finance guy, let's suppose he just splits and commits fraud. What happens to Joe with the car? And that's an illustration of private credit. And Wall Street's awfully nervous about this stuff, about private credit. But it's represented by things like PayPal, any of these pay over time, or internet bank. Yeah, you see them. Synchrony does finances Guitar Center. I don't know who Affirm finances Micro Center, whoever it is. And these aren't banks. This is private credit. And private credit is always the first one to go, uh, because they don't have a backstop. Yeah, this once they split with the money, like that auto parts case in Detroit, it's really hard to recover. And you've got people out there with cars that they stole money on to the guy that flim flammed them, Honest John. Uh, so let's the next time you come across a pay in four or things or any whenever any merchant offers to help finance, take a look and realize that they ain't talking about a bank necessarily. That could be them. And if them don't get paid, it's be a lot. It's be a lot of people owing money on things that are just worthless. So let's try. The moral of the story is let's try and stay away from Honest John's used cars if at all possible. But I said we both know sometimes, and it's that same political point. You have to deal with it. You have to play the hand you're dealt. It really is that kind of simple. And what did I don't know what I did. I think my volume. There we go. That's a little better. Uh, oh no. Let's see. We also. How about? Oh, and we even have it set up properly. How about that? Well, wonders never cease. Your somewhat politically savvy host actually got things right. So that's about. And listen, that's the reason cars are more expensive. Is we were in a prosperous time, and the manufacturers built cars that would sell. We bought them. It's kind of the end of the story. Uh, but now let's kind of jump over to London for a minute, and let's check out that old those old Financial Times. And I say this every day, but that is a really superior newspaper. And of course, they're from London, so that gives them a little clearer perspective. And there, and I won't go into everything there like I did with the Times, but the first major read was what Kevin Warsh should do at the Fed. Now, everybody kind of knows or has their thoughts as to what he should do. And keep in mind, the Fed has two mandates: to keep inflation at or below 2%, and to maintain full employment, which is, I think, 95%. And it's got a very cruel tool to use to do this. It has interest rates. And so if the economy is going a little too fast, a little too hot, what do? Up the interest rate so that money costs more, so people won't use as much of it, and things will settle down a little bit. On the flip side, let's say things are really low. I mean, economic output is really low. And geez, somebody says, if I cut interest rates and make money easier to borrow or cheaper to borrow, then more people will borrow and more people will spend. So that's their tool. Okay. So, what can the Fed do? The Fed can raise interest rates. It can lower interest rates. The problem here is that we're in a position that every reputable economist told us would happen. And it's called stagflation. And what happens is you get a very range-bound stock market with high unemployment. And we've seen, and the high unemployment kind of started with Trump and Doge. Wasn't he the first person to lay off government employees by the thousands, regardless of the nature of their position? Which is like the height of stupidity, but Trump's stupid. You can't be shocked at how poor his decision making is. And the reason his decision making is so poor is he makes a decision not based on the facts as presented. Okay, think about that. He's, somebody's gonna make a decision. Should I buy X or Y? And and then the guy lies. It was a proven deal. We all knew what kind of guy he was. But anyway, let me go back to the inflation of the Fed and Kevin Warsh. Now, Warsh is, I don't know, pretty wealthy guy, seems like 100 million, 130 million. I mean, at that point, you can pretty much do what you want. Of course, you might not be a billionaire, but 110 mil is still pretty secure. Excuse me. So we all know that Trump wants lower interest rates because it helps him and his buddies. I mean, he's got a ton of debt. Okay. And while we're talking on debt, I want to kind of work this in real quick. I try to mention this at least once per show. And I always want to make sure that you guys understand and are comfortable with understanding how bonds work. Bonds are debt instruments, right? You buy a $10,000 bond from the U.S. It owes you $10,000 plus the interest. So let's say, what happens if somebody like Japan or China either stops buying our debt or starts selling it? They start dumping our bonds. What are they saying? They're saying, we don't think we can't count on the U.S. to provide us this kind of a return. We can go other places in the world and get that return. Okay, so how does the bond market react? Well, the bond market's based on supply and demand, so that when people start dumping bonds like this, the bondholders have only one choice. They have to keep raising their interest rates to draw in new buyers. And that's a big loss for the country, right? I mean, we have to pay higher interest rates, and we're losing our cachet in the world. No, think about that. Nobody wants our bonds. And I'm going to tell you, let's throw another kind of supply demand situation in there. The world, it's kind of trade to say, but the world does run on oil, right? And what if, beyond the oil shock of the 70s, where you had to make an appointment to get gas, what if you couldn't buy it at all? And what if $20 a gallon wouldn't buy it? What if you just couldn't? What if there was just no gas to buy? Now, contrast that with, a month or two ago when there was a pretty good bit of gas around and it was more or less reasonable. I mean, everybody always bitches about gas, but it was not $8 and $10 a gallon in Big Sur. It was not $6.50 in Los Angeles, or actually $8 in Los Angeles. It wasn't, we had lots of it, and it was a more or less fair market determined price. But now now we need it. So guess what? They don't have to give us very much, and they can charge more. So I can't ask everybody enough to please contrast the facts. Or I had a professor. Please contrast the shadow of the presidency with the substance of what's been accomplished or what's been done. Yes, the old shadow and the substance. And I don't think it's out of line for me to say that, lying, cheating, grifters, we know how they are. And it's funny, they're You can't call him Honest John, but in a joke, I will. All right. Oh, and this is, how about this? From the sublime to the ridiculous. Pontiff at war with the White House. And it started with the Pope being critical of the detainees that ICE had detained, arrested, whatever you want to say. And I can see, you can see the where the controversy comes in. The Pope, as I understand it, is the head of the Catholic Church, and the only person or the only entity that he is accountable to is God Almighty. Now, that seems to be a pretty influential position when you're accountable to only God, and you're the spiritual head of a church that has 1.4 billion people. I mean, I'm not always, Catholicism, like everything else, has had its dark moments, and some were darker than others. Uh, but the Pope and all Catholic clergy and most clergy, and it's kind of unique to the United States. Most clergy were educated. Presbyterians, Jews, Catholics, but everybody had some sort of education into what their religion was and how it was built and what it stood for. And see, apparently that's a little bit of an inconvenience for Trump, who just naturally assumes he knows more about any given topic than anybody else. And in this case, the assertion is Trump knows more about morality than the Pope, which I'll kind of let you laugh on your own about that. But if you think that's funny, give us a call at 949-629-3820. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the pontiff, the Pope, and the guy that's sitting in the Oval Office. God, it really is hard to call him president. Okay, so, and let's see. Oh, and how about this? Would you believe it's kind of a slow day at the office for white collar defense attorneys? And you may ask, why is it a slow, or why are the days slow at white collar defense attorneys' offices? Well, the answer is, under the Trump administration, they're seeing fewer cases brought with lighter with dispositions that are kind to the defendant. Okay, so and not just staggering. I say that a lot, but yeah, the white collar criminal defense attorneys are having a bad day because Trump is so corrupt and lets everything go, and endorses and of course tries to take his little cut whenever he can, because I think they do that because he's just a crook. You gotta love those sound effects. So, and let's move right along. Yeah, how about the decline in prosecution of alleged financial fraud amid lighter touch enforcement? And the reason why is Trump doesn't consider financial fraud a crime. It's a legitimate way of doing business to him. It's unfathomable to him that this conduct would be criminal and she could go to jail for it. Hell, he thought it's just, making a little money among friends. Well, it just can't be criminal. And obviously that's not true. Okay, let's see. And this gets back to the bond thing. U.S. Treasuries appeal fades as investors eschew the Trump risk. And the first few words that are all you need to know. U.S. Treasuries appeal fades. And let's be clear. It's not the what has failed or what doesn't appeal anymore is the U.S. is a safe haven. The U.S. is the good guys, the country that would always pay their debts and always make their interest payments, a country that doesn't cheat in elections. Matter of fact, it wasn't uncommon for the U.S. to send delegations to other countries to help them run clean elections. And I'm going to have to digress for a second and tell you that clean elections are what we do. That was our brand, and our brand was destroyed through the big lie. What has come to be known as the big lie. And of course, that is that the 2020 election was rigged and that Donald Trump actually won, but he had it unceremoniously stripped away, so on and so forth. Now, that to me kind of qualifies someone as a worthless piece of, what's a nice way, human excrement. So, and when he sowed the seeds of doubt and then exploited it for the 4 years he was out of office. And then in that time, he built dissension against Biden. And it started as, health matters, and which is just another hypocritical example of the way Trump thinks, because if you believe the rumors, he may well be wearing leg braces to stand. I mean, the guy's, 6'7", got to be 300 pounds, and eats McDonald's cheeseburgers, God knows how much. And no offense to McDonald's, I just think that might be an easy way to gain weight, and especially if you don't move much. And I love this whenever I think about Trump and exercise. Of course, you can't help but think about the caddies on the caddies that call him Pele because he kicks so many balls on the course because he can't win fairly. So he cheats, no matter what it is. Golf, there's a reason he's got all those Trump National Club championships to his name. He's just, guys, some people should not have certain jobs. And everybody was told why this guy was the wrong person for the job. And for whatever reason, he convinced you to vote for him. And just about now, you got to be feeling pretty good, don't you? I voted for the guy who said no more wars. I'm voted for the guy who's going to bring prices down. I voted for the right guy. Well, you might want to kind of rethink that position, and you are more than welcome in the Democratic Party. As a matter of fact, if there are any disaffected Trump voters, we'd kind of like to hear from you. 949-629-3820. And not only would we like to hear from disaffected Trump voters, it would be my pleasure to introduce them to the Democratic Party. And again, we're not saints. We've had, our share of corruption. Who's the guy from Louisiana that had the cold hard cash in his freezer? So we're not without sin. But as a general proposition, you can count on Democrats to look out for regular people. And as a general proposition, you can always count on the Republicans to come to the aid of the wealthy at the expense of the poor, which is, with Medicare being chopped and the food aid being restricted. Any of these guys are already the poorest people in the country. Why do we take it out on them? Wouldn't it be more, I don't know, Christian-like to commit to doing something good? the Trump hypocrisy knows no bounds. So, and because it knows no bounds, that means we got to step up to the plate and uh, come a little harder with some old news things for you. But yeah, I do. I mean, that can't be emphasized enough. U.S. Treasury's appeal fades. You can read that as U.S. appeal fades. This is going to be, you know, if Ray Dalio is right, it's going to be really bad. And if he's wrong, it's still going to be bad because we are where we are. But we can count on our elected Democratic officials to lead us out of the darkness. It might be slowly, but they will lead us out. And that's why we need you to keep voting for Democrats over and over and over again. I keep telling you about wanting to really nail the sheriffs that's taking the voter rolls, like Chad Bianco in Riverside and whoever it was in Arizona. Why Republicans have refused to enforce their own rules against people, I can't imagine, other than to think it's for financial gain. Geez, could that be? Could the Republicans be selling out for financial gain? I think the answer is yes. So let's try to keep things interesting as we move on down the line here. And while we jam into like today's New York Times instead of the weekend, and this ought to make you feel really good. Nuclear fears rise at 4 sites deep in the Iranian mountains, and apparently there is some radioactive stuff that's deep in the mountains that is supposedly untouchable by conventional bombs that we have. It looks like the Iranian site is so deep and so buried underground that we can't take it out. So, and how stupid do you have to be the president and think that everything will go right every time? That's insanity, delusion, deception, call it what you will. But I think we need to take a look at that. How about this? Washington and Tehran quarrel over the status of talks in Pakistan. Well, you've got one side like us that doesn't play fair. We do not play fair. They're arguing over the status of the talks. Like Trump says, "Oh, we're talking, we're close to a deal." Trump and the Iranians go, "Huh? We didn't say that." So, again, credibility is huge, with responsibility and power. And Trump is irresponsible and has a lot of power, which seems like the absolute worst combination. Thank you, Supreme Court, for doing that. So let's, after the fact that they're quarreling over the status, like whether they're going on or not, how about Syrians and the needing help invoke Trump's name for a little help? And in this deal, there were 2 Syrian brothers who wanted to redevelop Syria, but of course they needed what? Money. And not only did they need money, they needed more money, more money, more money. So they talked to a congressman from South Carolina, Joe Wilson, and honest Joe Wilson comes up from there. "Oh, I know how to get Trump's attention in this. Build the Trump National Golf Course in Damascus."
And so the brother's like, we're one step ahead of you. We already got the plans just laid out and named. Uh, and to make a long story even longer, yes, they got their help. I forgot they were asking for like $2 billion, but yeah, that's really not much compared to the 10 billion that Trump is trying to get from the IRS for disclosing his tax returns. What a piece of work. Okay, Democrats go on GOP turf with tax cuts. Well, you know, why not? If it's got to be done, I'd rather have a Democrat do it than a Republican do it. At least you can rest assured there'll be a little fairer, a little more evenly distributed. My favorite about that is the farmer relief bill, relief checks. And I think like the big corporations got, I think it was $50,000 per unit, $5,000 to a corporation now. And I think the average check to the average individual family farmer was $500. So again, it's like everything Trump does is tilted to helping the wealthy, and the reason. And then doesn't that sound suspicious? Like we're getting to oligarch territory? A few rich people having all the power. I think we're getting. I think we're getting pretty close there. Let's do one more before we take a little 5 minute break at 1ish or so. Let's see. Oh, how about this? The Justice Department installs Trump loyalist to investigate Trump foes. Uh, you know, he's rigged this. Now, there's a notion in constitutional law about traditional notions of fair play and justice, and that means having like a prosecution and a defense arguing the facts and having a jury determine their guilt and or innocence. Hopefully they're innocent. Uh, but in this deal, I say Trump wants $10 billion from the IRS for releasing his tax returns, and he's got a Trump lawyer asking for the money, and he's got a Trump lawyer willing to able to pay the money, which is awfully convenient, isn't it? And I mean, it's not like this guy stops. $10 billion. That's just for himself. While you don't have food, while you don't have health care, while you don't have child care, while you don't have gas to put in your car, while you don't have a better car to get you to and from work. And it's just not his world. He could care less about people like you. And if you are one of those people, you really should come to a realization that I think the way they say it these days is you have been played for a fool. And on one hand, I can't wait till some of the diesel driving pickup truck guys that voted for him. I can't wait till diesel hits 10, 12, $13 a gallon. This is what your guy did for you. This is what he did for you the next time you cook out hamburgers because you can't afford to use the electric oven to cook them or broiler to cook them. The guy's just vying for himself. We cannot let this go on. This is I'm talking to you, and this will bring back the old Ice Barbie herself, Kristi Noem, who apparently didn't know her husband too well. Otherwise, she might have been a little suspicious as to why he had, panties and bras that didn't necessarily belong to her. So anyway, the Department of Homeland Security has spent $304 million to double the fleet to 10. But in there, they had two hugely luxurious billionaire jets. And geez, I think I know him who ordered it. And I think I know him what went on when they were in the air. I think everybody kind of knows the deal, don't we? So, yeah, I mean, when's the last time you flew in a corporate jet, private jet? How about a private plane? How about something with 2 seats and a propeller, right? Compared to the wealthy people that jet around. And who do you think Trump legislates for? Or who does he put his weight on Congress for his buddies? And I'm kind of being nice and not getting into selling pardons or whatever, but I do want to make one kind of broad statement. And it's that even if you gave him the benefit of the doubt on everything since January 6th, gave the benefit of the doubt on every trial, everything. Wasn't January 6th enough to not vote for him? Or did you rationalize it somehow by thinking that the business genius that went broke 6 or 7 times, including in a casino, is the better business person? And that's just blatant propaganda to portray him like that. My best recollection about The Apprentice, which I never watched, was that one of the first things Trump does is cuts a deal. I think it was Mark Burnett, the producer. I forgot. I don't know for sure, but that name rings a bell. And so Trump looks around and says, we've got a little product placement opportunity here. How about if we split it? So sure. So automatically he makes more per show from the product placement than he does actually doing the show. I mean, the guy's just slimy and slippery and he's just not a decent guy. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm somewhat curious as to what that old stock market's doing today. Somehow or other, it's more or less flat. When the big news earlier was about Iran firing on U.S. ships. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is something Iran has talked about seizing or running. They've been thinking about this for years, but they never did it until now. So again, thanks, Donald. And by the way, you were told everything. If you weren't told everything, that's because you were too stupid to listen. Sound military planners will give you a sound battle plan, as long as a casualty assess risk and all that. So don't tell us you didn't know that Iran was going to fire on Saudi Arabia or Dubai. What did you think they were going to do? Sit there and be in awe of you? Which is kind of comes back to that whole Pope thing. You got a guy who has represented himself by any stretch of the imagination as being a divine being like Jesus Christ. And, I'm hardly a biblical scholar, but I don't think Jesus, took food away from people. I don't think Jesus, took away the health care. I don't think Jesus did any of that. So why is Trump acting like Jesus? And I've actually got an answer for that. Trump is acting like Jesus because people treat him like he's Jesus. I mean, if all you had around is people telling you how great you are and that you never made a mistake, you might get a little inflated ego for that. And once you think you're Jesus, it's hard to come back from. And I tell you, if you'll give me just a second, this is your somewhat semi-savvy political host, Abby Kaufman. And we're broadcasting from democracyradionetwork.com, 949-629-3820 here in Newport Beach, California. Give us a call and share your thoughts and opinions as to the current political status in your neighborhood, in your community. You looking at anybody good in the midterms? Have you been to an Indivisible rally? Did you go to No Kings? Whatever you can do, we'd love to hear about it. So give us a call at 949-629-3820 and let us know what's going on. And I'm going to take a quick second, assuming we can do this. But I'm going to click the be right back thing and plug in the laptop. Hang on. And not to put too fine of a point on thing, but power is always nice, whether it's for your laptop or in life. Power is usually better. Okay, so let's see what were we getting to? Oh, this is great. After we'll go into the since we passed on the Homeland Security in their jets, and you know who pays for this, right? Yeah, that's just making sure. And are you one of those people? Do you want, or did you want Kristi Noem to have nothing but the best? I don't know what happens to people from like South Dakota. Oh, this has always intrigued me about the people that went on to North Dakota. It's like South Dakota wasn't bad enough. South Dakota, it didn't get cold enough for you. You had to go to North Dakota. And I actually have driven through South Dakota. I've been to Badlands and Mount Rushmore and Wall Drugs. If anybody's been that way, they know what it is. But yeah. So, and another thing for all you guitar or music historians, there's a school or museum or something in, I want to say, Vermilion, South Dakota, where they have a genuine Stradivari guitar. And keep in mind the name was Stradivari, which makes his brand Stradivarius. So, I think I got the name right, and we'll let it go at that. And moving right along. Oh, guys. How about this? This week, or the week Pope Leo used his voice to agitate world leaders. Well, what the Pope does is not to necessarily agitate leaders, even though he is a catalyst or can be a catalyst for change, which is really good. He tries to advocate for people. He doesn't try to, upset people. He tries to advocate for people. And like just about everything in life, it depends on whose ox is being gored. So we can't, I think we owe the Pope a forum for morality. I think that we are in a period of ethical and moral freefall ushered in by the current administration. And I think we need to roll those Republicans in 2026, 2028, and beyond. And my thought is that if Trump keeps messing everything else up like this, we may never have another Republican president for 50 years. And, wouldn't that be a nice thought? At least we'd have some And you know, you can. Our system of government is designed based on power. You get your power from the people, right? And without a majority vote, you are obviously the minority. And the majority always gets its way, and the minority never does. You know, the British have this thing called the loyal opposition, where there's always a minority party that always makes great arguments to poke holes in the majority uh, to try to make the overall situation better. But here you have a president who's not receptive to contrary information. And yeah, it'd be really nice to. I'll tell you, I'll go one step further. The reason Trump does this, pictures himself as Christ, is because he's got people around him telling him he's, you know, like he's Christ-like. Uh, and again, he knows so little that, you know, sometimes you can be so stupid you don't know how stupid you are. Well, meet Honest Don Corleone, you know, High Plains grifter, whatever you want to call him. It's just, God, I hope we can come back and you know, I hope it doesn't take too many decades. We need to recover all those research scientists that were let go. We need to recover that brain trust that ran government departments based on continuity. And not only were they based on continuity, they were based on competency. I can't use that word enough, competency. And what I can use to describe the current administration would be a lack of competency. Like, I think, what's the Latin expression? Non competence mentum, something like that. And the guys on Car Talk, Ray and Tom Mariazzi, had had a little relationship between, the good and the bad. So anyway, let's, for God's sake, let's work together and get this guy out. There's no, you know, if he lost, or rather, sorry, Kamala Harris lost the popular vote, which is the first time that's happened in ages. But usually a Democrat will win the electoral college, but not win the popular vote. But another circumstance for us to get behind, and another circumstance to break. And let's see, moving right along. How about this? And this parallels the article in the Financial Times. Michigan rebuffs Trump administration demand for ballot information. Michigan, geez, Trump trying to acquire voter information, and they got it. They just took it and stole it in D.C. In Atlanta, in Arizona, and Riverside, California. Matter of fact, the sheriff there, Chad Bianco, just found out the other day that, oh, guess what? Well, the city's not going to pay for your attorney's fees because you're being sued for doing this. That's not within the scope of your employment. That's not the kind of thing we cover. That's not what we pay you to do. So there's no coverage. Okay? The city council has told them that they're just not going to do this. And of course, that will have zero effect on the Trump administration. They'll just keep doing it because he's a, oh yeah, make me, or oh yeah, who's going to stop me kind of guy. And truth of the matter is, we need to stop him. We need to speak up. And I keep using this expression, but let's roll those Republicans. 2026, 2028, and beyond. And if you're up to it, give us a call at 949-629-3820 and let us know how much you spend on gas or groceries or just how the vibe has changed in your world. We really, I'd kind of like to know because everything we do here at Democracy Radio Network, everything we do is geared towards electing Democrats, and then more Democrats. My initial position, is any Democrat, anytime. We'd love to have you. Come on, tell us what you're about, who you are, how you got there, and let's go. Let's give it a whirl. Let's put our heads together, our shoulders to the grindstone, and leave no trace of anything. Just be clean and get rid of things. So that's I don't know why I kind of had to get on that little soapbox today, but I kind of did. And this is a corollary to the other headline. And this headline: Homeland Security buys jets for the deportation fleet. Well, so we have a fleet of planes dedicated to flying people out. Like we can't do this a cheaper way. Have you guys noticed this? Whatever Trump wants, there is money is no object. But if you want a quarter for a Coke, go work for 3 hours and show me the time slip. So, and I see when you have this grandiose opinion of yourself, it's not, it's not inconceivable that you would start to think of yourself as being a supreme being. I don't know much about them supreme beings because I don't, if they're out there, I hadn't met one. So let's, and by the way, wouldn't that be a good name for a band, the Supreme Beings? Just thought I'd run that by you. Oh, and how about this? Not only were there 8 kids shot in Louisiana, but I think there were 5 injured in a shooting on the University of Iowa campus or near the University of Iowa campus. And guys, can't we quit this? Can't we stop this? Can't we just stop this gun violence? And the answer is, well, probably not. The reason we can't stop it is because there are so many guns already out there, you can't control the sheer number. What are you going to do? And then let's say somebody pays you for an illegal gun. And in those cases, the legitimate guys will not have guns, and the crooked guys will. And that's a real tough road to hoe. And it is now 1:18 on Monday, April 20th, 2026. This is your somewhat semi-savvy political host, Abby Kaufman, and we're here at DemocracyRadioNetwork.com, the Abby Kaufman Show. We're on from noon till 4, more or less, maybe 3:30ish, and we invite you to come on and let us know what's going on with you in your community. How do you feel about your city council race? It's time we got a little more involved so that we're not caught flat-footed. I mean, it's already almost May. Elections are coming up in November. We've got some primaries in June. We can't. Time is a luxury we don't have. And if you don't have time, that means you have to work long and hard in the meantime for as long as you need to. And, like I said, the guy's going to cheat. It's what he does. I can only hope that the guys at the Brookings have their own plan worked out for 2026. You're never sure, but But anyway, 13 people died because of guns. Well, I think the 8 kids were a domestic situation, and God only knows what the University of Iowa ones were about. But and Kurt Vonnegut, the author, had this thing about things that go make loud noises and kill people, and how they're generally not a good thing. Well, they're generally not a good thing. And of course, if you're the one being defended, you want the biggest, baddest, hole to be blown through your assailant. But it's just another Trump problem for us to deal with. And let's see here. Oh, we've got the 2028 candidates testing their pitches in Michigan. And, it's always lately the Democrats really have had an abundance of riches as far as candidates go. We're spot on, and we've got the best people. We've got the better ideas. And I think that people that would ordinarily would not give a Democrat a second thought are more than willing to give a Democrat a second thought. It's not, Trump has betrayed everything and everybody. He's betrayed everything American and every American body. And the truth of the matter is, his policies were gut, or what he would call, gut reactions. He wouldn't make a a decision based on any sort of information or analytical presentation. He would make a decision according to what felt good. And if you make decisions when it felt good or when it feels good, that reminds me of the old click and clack Brain Tomoyasu thing about unencumbered by the thought process. And I think we can pretty well assume that Trump doesn't have much thought process available. God, and if this is the best he can do, heaven help us. I mean, he could twitch and signal a nuclear war. Would anybody be surprised? Of course not. And why wouldn't we be surprised? Because Trump's an idiot. Sometimes it just comes down to that. Sometimes you're just an idiot. So let's remember that Trump was, and will be an idiot. He is and was and will be a horrible business person. He was, and will be unconcerned by the economic impact of him on your life. And keep in mind, this guy's getting ready to bomb a country and then walk away. And not, you remember Colin Powell and all that, and Pottery Barn, if you break it, you own it. Well, we all know that's not the policy at Kmart or Walmart or wherever mart you shop at. But he's just got to be held accountable for the results of his political actions and policies. Does anybody realistically think they're better off today than they were 4 years ago? Kind of doubt it. I know. I can tell you, I was much better off under Joe Biden. And I hope we have a return to that soon. Let's see. Oh, and how about this? A Paris court sent a cement manufacturer and his head of operation to prison for crimes like financing terror or enabling terrorism, because he paid that money specifically to terrorists in Syria. So yeah. So now they can be held liable. Will they? God only knows. But it's just BAD, and we gotta work to get ourselves out of this. And yeah, so they paid like 65 million to some terrorist thing to let their cement, do whatever cement does, and they get sued. And or they get arrested, and there's no, and there's no reason for you not to be held accountable. It was a white collar crime, which is still a crime, and we can't. Societies like games without rules, they can't exist. So let's, I don't want to get too heavy on that, but how about the cement maker going to jail over $6.5 million to Islamic State and other terrorist orgs. So, and I kind of hope this makes everybody happy. Will Maha be RFK Jr.'s downfall? The guy's just is another lunatic. And you Republican senators, you let it happen. Let me say that again. Republican senators, you let it happen. I think that's enough for any Senate Republican to not be voted for. I don't think they deserve to win an election that's based on cheating or falsity. I just want a good, clean game. And we had it until the big lie assertion, which, again, those guys had 61 or 3, something like that, times to prove it in court. They had some evidence, something. But each time, and to the 60-something time, they have what my old friend Bobby Howe would call bupkis. And bupkis is largely a big zero, like nothing. So if you're ever in a deal, you want more, you don't want to be the one that gets bupkis. Just a little strategic matter you might want to take into consideration in your next business deal. Will Maha cause RKF's, Kennedy Jr.'s downfall? Kind of thing, please, Kenneth, please. These guys are just destroying scientific healthcare, and destroying science is bad because then you replace it with, guess what? Something that's not science. And when you replace it with something that's not science, they're not equivalent, even though not everyone you make the argument to will see that. So we've just got to, keep grinding away each day, every day until November 2026, and then until November 2028. And let's dump Trump, please, once and for all. I'm not going to talk about how Mitch McConnell and his thuggery in stealing the election, the Supreme Court seat from Barack Obama. And something? Does anybody really care if they call him Barack Hussein Obama or not? I mean, do you really care? No. And the reason you don't care is that Trump has proven what kind of guy he is over and over and over again. A lying, cheating sleazeball. A lying, crying cheeseball bully. I mean, the list goes on and on. But just another one of those things to make you go, I wonder. Okay. And moving on to the Financial Times today, this is a good one. The Iran war will squeeze U.S. voters long after the conflict ends. economist warns. And I don't. I think that if an economist warned me about something that was going to be fairly influential, you would think I would take the time to know it. But sometimes things just don't happen as they should. So let's okay, so the Iran war will squeeze U.S. voters long after the conflict ends, economists warn. Okay, that's one side. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I heard the Treasury Secretary Scott Bennett or Benson, whatever his name is, that fuel prices are going to be high for a while. And so that's the Financial Times. It's going to squeeze U.S. voters for a while. The other side is prices will be down in May. And the Treasury Secretary just said that yesterday. An economic impossibility that the Trump administration will declare to be viable. And in the old days when people had small houses and kind of all next to each other, they're all kind of the same. There would be one policeman who would knock at the front door, and a cop who would sneak around the back door and yell, "Come in!" So the police got authorized their own entrance, their own illegal Fourth Amendment search and seizure. So, again, just be careful who you trust, particularly in the voting booth. But the way to bet safely is to vote Democrat. It is. Look at the records. Look at everything. The Democrats are there and have been there for people in every way. And let's kind of use FEMA as an example. In catastrophic emergencies, FEMA aid was dispensed without favor. And since Trump has been in office, I think like 78% of Republican FEMA claims have been reviewed and granted, compared with 22% of Democratic that have been analyzed. So, like I say, you got Bessent saying things will be down before you know it. You got Trump saying the same thing, and then then there's the reality that you and I see and feel and experience that apparently these guys in D.C. don't. And does anyone think Trump's ever been to a grocery store in his life? When he's speaking, if you want to call it that, the other day, as Trump was speaking the other day, the grift just became obvious, and his panic at Iran is obvious. And let's be clear, the reason he is panicked about Iran is he took the simplest answer and ignored the complicated risks. And I mean, like I said, you can't fix stupid. You can't call it unexpected when the kid goes for the shiny ball. And for a long time, the shiny ball for Trump had been the presidential pardon power. Clearly a constitutional power. Clearly, and when you start selling them, like selling pardons, I think that puts a little different spin on it. Before you might be concerned with someone who may have been wrongfully convicted, or convicted on principle, or convicted on the wrong principle. So you just, there's plenty of stuff out there. But again, in the hypocritical Trump period, if your guy does it, it's bad and it's wrong. If my guy does it, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So we can't. So really, the Republican enablers are the ones that need to be punished with this deal. I mean, those guys anybody campaigning with Trump should automatically be in the first group when it comes to job losses. Is to bet against good people. It is usually counterproductive. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and take a little break here. Let's do what do we do here? Let's do a comment. And we'll do this from the old referral link. And we're going to post this. One. And this is your somewhat semi-politically savvy host, Abby Kaufman. And we're going to take a little break here. We'll be right back. And just give us a few minutes. Thank you.
How about that, guys? Sorry about that, but we are back. It would be kind of like the call of nature, and it's never nice to not listen to Mother Nature. We are getting a little congested here, so let's take some. And if we are congested, then I guess the proper thing is to take some decongestants. And that's just what we're going to do. And now let's leave world and our international and national politics. And let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the home front. And whatever your home front is, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 949-629-3820. I'm your host, the Abby Kaufman Show. And, share your thoughts. Don't be quiet. We need you to speak up. And in addition to speaking up, a little action is necessary. At this point, it's necessary to join your local Democratic club. At this point, it's necessary to look at what's going on objectively and not according to your gut. It's time to consider the other points of view, and you'll see that they're really right. You will see that the points of view espoused by Democrats have always been a little kinder. And it's kind of like the affordable car situation. What was once affordable, it's not affordable anymore. And as some usually, and in that particular instance, they're not affordable because the market left them. The manufacturer, we just not gonna make those things. We don't make any money. And let's be real about this. A business or a corporation is in business for one purpose and for one purpose only, and that is to make money. And for my mommy, we'll go more money, more money, more money, because mom always appreciated that. But that's the distinction, and it's a crude distinction about Republicans being pro-business and Democrats being pro-person. But the analogy roughly holds out. In every, in every prejudice, in every ill thought, there's usually a false idea behind it. You might be blaming for something on somebody when they had absolutely zero to do with it. So if you have time, go back and read a little bit about the U.S. And when you think of George Washington, I cannot tell a lie. I chopped down the cherry tree. And when you talk about, how about Honest Abe? I can see Honest Abe, Honest Don. I don't know. And let's see, who else is on Mount Rushmore? Oh, geez, could Trump be missing from Mount Rushmore? Of course not. He's not there and doesn't belong there. And he really doesn't belong in the same breath with those giants. I mean, Trump, he starts trouble and then wants you to pay him to clean it up. He's just a horrible excuse for a human being. And he may be a really successful capitalist, but if you have to become a successful capitalist by lying and beating, cheating and stealing and humiliating and all that, then you're zero. And actually, if you were listening to Elvis Costello earlier, you'd be less than zero. And how do we counteract the less than zeros?
we counteract the less than zeros with all the great Democratic candidates we have. It's just I keep saying this, but we really do have an abundance of riches in 2026, and let's use them. Let's not, and we need what were formerly known as swing voters. We need them to come over and vote with us. I I think it's beyond dispute that your vote was gained through Trump lying about one thing or another, because he lies about everything and the other. Um, when you get like 34 fraud convictions, that's suggests you might have a problem with the truth. But again, I love telling the story. But my favorite story is Stormy Daniels on the stand talking about the color of his underwear, the shape of Trump's penis, and how he lost in the bed. And next thing you know, Trump's on the stand and goes, "Never saw him before in my life." You gotta believe that. Obviously one person is lying, and there's only two people to pick from. So there's a better than even chance that the lying person is your guy. And you guys don't want to have that hanging over your head. But you elected this, imbecile. And I've never been really sure about the word imbecile and where it came from and all that. I should know, but he's just an imbecile. And again, nobody argues this point. And I keep getting away from local politics, but we really would like to hear from some of your hyper local concerns. We are Democracy Radio Network. I'm Abby Kaufman, your host, broadcasting at democracyradionetwork.com. And give us a call at 949-629-3820 and let us know what you're thinking. We're always looking to make the best, put our best foot forward, make the best presentation possible. And like I say, if you're so inclined to give us a vote, God knows we'd appreciate it. And let's see here. Anything really, really, really super crucial, I'm going to have to, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we have to call a little bit of a day. I've got to go to the courthouse in Westminster, California, and that's a good bit away, and I don't feel like doing it, but we will probably call it a day around 3:30, maybe 3, so I can get there and see if we can get this thing squared away. And moving right along, let's see, anything in the mail? We have a Bill Dimitri comment, and we're going to assume that the whole Bill Dimitri from Providence, Rhode Island is well and in good spirits. And Bill's a really fine criminal defense attorney. So if you're in Providence and need one, go see my friend Bill. Bill Dimitri Law. He is not only is he a profoundly good lawyer, but he's I would bet that he's fairly well connected. So give Billy D a call. He'll do wonders for you. And I will do wonders for you too at 949-629-3820 if you give us a call and share your thoughts and opinions. We're closing in on 10 minutes to 2. And let's see, we usually go until 3:30 or 4. And we'll just see how long today, because we've got to go to Westminster, California. And I don't really know how far away Westminster, California is, but maybe we ought to have some idea. And let's see, how about now? Why we don't want you? How far is OCC sailing from court on and I think that would be Westminster. I don't know how that works, but let's see here. 10 miles away. Okay, well, we don't know. That's okay. You guys are fucking worthless. And while we're here, I think we also want to get the phone working. So hang on just a second. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. We just want to make sure we have plenty of power for this because you deserve it. You deserve the full. It's like that place up in the valley, Thousand Oaks. You deserve the full. If you live in Thousand Oaks, you deserve the full Thousand Oaks. You don't deserve the $999 oak discount version. You want the full Thousand Oaks, and we are your full Thousand Oaks here at the DemocracyRadioNetwork.com. I'm your host, Abby Kaufman, and we're inviting you to give us a call, 949-629-3820, and share your thoughts. And if you're so inclined and want to help us elect Democrats, and then elect some more Democrats, we'd appreciate a little donation just to keep, trying to keep up with the $7 or $8 gasoline and all the other things, the $10 ground meat. I mean, the list goes on and on. But there's not one short of billionaires. Trump has harmed every other group. It's just there. And why he expects this sort of thing to be popular, I just can't imagine. What I do know is that Trump is 100% influenced by things he hears and is 0% interested in things he reads because he don't read. Just illiterate. Now, does that make any more sense? Having an illiterate, dumb person? It's. And the sad thing is, he'd like to think that at one time he might have had the ability of concern, but truth is, just never. Some people just, not cut out for that kind of thing. And let's see what's going on in the world. Let's see if we can't take a phone call right now. Let's see let's see who's on the line. But hello, you're on the DemocracyRadioNetwork.com. Tell us what's going on. Oops, I'm talking to me. Why don't we hang up and try another call here? And in the meantime, it's Abby Kaufman signing out from the democracyradionetwork.com. Thanks, guys. And now that call's over, you can see how it's kind of supposed to work. People call and we talk. Hate to go too far out on a limb with that, but that is the extent of it. And now we do, like I think we do have to wonder how much is gas. I've got to go up to the Westminster Courthouse, which is a long ways from here, which means a good bit of gasoline. This could take $20 easily. But we got to do it. I had gotten and let me tell you why. The reason I have to go to the Westminster Courthouse is because back in January, coming back from the gym at about 6 in the morning, it was pitch dark, and I'm crossing the little bridge, the Santa Ana River Bridge between Huntington Beach and Newport Beach, and siren and blue light comes on. No siren, just blue light. So I'm like, me? So I pull over and to the officer, I did something wrong. And the cop says, I couldn't read your license plate from 50 feet. Your license plate bulb was dim. And I just kind of sat there like, what am I going to do? Argue with the guy? So I just sit there and, make a long story longer. He asked for my license, no proof, no registration, no proof of insurance, just asked my license. And comes back and gives me a ticket, like an official ticket, for having a dim license plate bulb, which involves going to court and all that. And like I said, the officer could have given me a warning, could have done anything, but he chose to give me a ticket. And it was a Newport Beach police officer, last name Rounds. And my first thought was that I ought to thank him in some way, because God knows what he saved me from. I mean, if I had dim license plate bulbs, God only knows what evil could have befallen me. I mean, maybe a cop would even have shot me, But I deserved a ticket, so there it is. And we have to go mess with it. And, what do you say? Some people have the small people, small minds, small jobs. I think that that's the sum and substance of my thoughts on policemen. I mean, there's just not that much difference between the gangs that break the laws and the gangs that enforce the laws. So let's take a little sip of water here and wet the old throat. Getting tougher and tougher as we get older. Okay. It is coming up on the 2 o'clock hour, and we will be here for at least another hour till 3 o'clock on the democracyradionetwork.com. I am your host, Abby Kaufman, asking you to give us a call, 949-629-3820, and let us know what's going on in your world, and let us know who you plan on voting for. What is your, what do you think of your council people, your assembly members, your state senate? What do you interact with them, and you just kind of pull the lever, and if you're one of those guys who just walks in, or one of those people that just goes in and pull the Republican lever up and down the ballot, straight ticket, please don't do that. Please try to make an informed decision. I mean, voting is the central feature of a democracy. And if you ain't got a vote, you ain't got a voice. And if you ain't got a voice, you're hopeless and helpless. So let's spin our internet radio dial to the democracyradionetwork.com 949-629-3820 and share some thoughts with you. So it's a beautiful Monday here in Newport Beach, California. And a little hazy, but not too bad. And we hope everybody's doing well on their Monday. And by the way, everybody knows about Taco Tuesday, right? But there's no anything for Monday. even though my Italian restaurant has lasagna Monday, it doesn't seem like, like it fits. I don't know what would fit. Moscow Mule Monday, that's a possibility. Uh, let's see here. I don't, I wish I drank enough to really be good at this, but, uh, oh, excuse me. But we're not, so we just kind of drink when we can, enjoy when we can. I'd also like your thoughts as to community radio. Has anybody got any involvement with KUCI over at UCI? We'd be interested in talking to you guys, maybe a partnership of some sort. It would be my pleasure to to have interns run shows, give them a 2 hour show, or maybe 3 hours, depending on what you know. Or we might just give them an option 2 to 3 and see what they pick. But what we're looking at is an organization that will focus on the California politics at the hyper local level. And to do this, we've broken California down by regions and cities, just depending on what was more convenient, to give us an idea of how many hosts we would need. And I think the answer came back as like 8 to 10, because you can have 8 3 hour shifts for 24, or you can have 12 2 hour shifts, or some 12 and some some 2 and some 4 hour shifts, whatever people were whatever the broadcaster, the DJ would like to do. We're open to accommodating, because we want to accommodate Democrats. We want to help Democrats get elected. Come on the show. You're more than welcome. Tell us what you do, why you do it, the people you do it for, and let's build a functioning democratic community. Let's form a little community where everybody votes, and in our case, we vote the same way. And we vote the same way because that's how democracy works. The most votes wins. So we need to be the party with the most wins. And, the sad thing about all this is our competition is just such a poor excuse for a human being. I mean, what what could you ever say bad enough that would reflect on Donald Trump's badness? It's like he's so bad, he doesn't know how bad he is. So I said one can only hope. But we need to, hopefully there's a little kindness going on in the courthouse today. That would kind of be a first, but you never know. And we'll, of course, we'll have to stick a little more money in the bank to pay for the low gasoline, but at least it's the 20th, and another week or so, and the month will be over. So, and then, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Abby Kaufman, gets the absolute privilege of getting his car star smogged, and before we get to pay the registration fee for the old 06 Jag. And, a 20-year-old Jag is, it feels really good. If there was ever a people in a place that understood the importance of quality over time that lasts generations, is the English. For whatever reason, whether it's going back to the Doomsday Book of 832 or what, they understand the connectedness of generations, and they live it with most of, at least the products they used to make. British things were just known to last for generations. You might get a good gun or a good shoe or whatever it was, and it would take a generation or two to break them in. They were so good. So so there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a little more comfortable and sponging a little bit on some of those British things. So once again, we are live at the MopsyRadioNetwork.com, broadcasting from our secret location on Newport Harbor in Newport Beach, California. And it is 2:05 p.m. Central Time. So the market's been closed for a while, and actually they were closed when I reported on them before, kind of flat, and like I said, part of the market reaction, excuse me, is that the brokers these days are so young that they've really never seen the oil shock and lots of other economic black swan events, and they just try to deal with what's in front of them the best they can. As it turns out, they've adopted short-term approaches, which work pretty well with an erratic thinker like we have. So I'm starting to get really congested here, so we'll probably call it a day around 3-ish. But at least it gives you some idea of what. Oh, by the way, later in the week, we expect to have Dr. Kelly Brown, the candidate from Costa Mesa City Council District 5. And I'm going to tell you, she is a really outstanding person. I mean, her practical qualifications as far as large amounts of money and allocations and representing different interests, she has those qualities. And she has the most important quality of all. Kelly Brown cares. And I think you'll see that pretty consistently throughout the Democratic candidates in 2026 and 2028. There's no doubt that they are empathetic and that they feel for their constituents. I mean, they know how tough it is to have a decent salary and pay $7 for gasoline. They can only imagine and feel for everybody that they can't do that. And what do you do in that case? Well, you ride the bus or you do something, and let's just work really hard to see if we can't get out of this. It's not the way. I don't think we'll have much of a chance before the midterms. Of course, there's a chance that something catastrophic could go wrong with Trump's health, and JD Vance wouldn't be any. I don't think he'd be any better than Trump, and there's a substantial chance he'd be worse than Trump because he's, younger and smarter and more aggressive. But all that remains to be seen. And you know what? How come? Hang on. How come it's not charging? I guess because I pulled the thing. When I went to answer the phone. And guys, if there's one thing your somewhat semi-savvy political host needs, it is power. Power. Oh, hang on a second. We'll take this. Hang on. Hello? Hey, Mark, what's going on? Oh, yeah, where you work on the deck? Right. It's getting hot again. Oh, yeah, you can't.
Well, it's not like it's not like you do that steadily to have muscles built up and all that. Yeah. Oh, believe me, don't I know? Yeah. How was it?
And it's actually called the Cody Norris Show. If you look him up on like Facebook.
Yeah, I
Or not
did.
Facebook,
As a matter of
YouTube.
fact, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're entertaining.
Well, to be the truth about it, sometimes it's just good to get out.
Yeah. Well, I see these are pretty accomplished musicians. His wife has won some, American National Bluegrass Award like 4 years in a row for the best female fiddle player.
Huh.
In the second band, they're the ones where the guitar player won the U.S. Banjo Championship last year before. He was with them again. He was playing mandolin this time. But, these guys are just accomplished musicians.
Well, at least you don't have to go far for them. So just in the local library. I need to go see about that license plate thing in the court today. It's way. I thought it was a close court, but it's not. It's like way far away. And it's gonna be a real pain in the ass, and there's nothing I can do about it. So yeah, other than that, I just want to get through April. Oh, we got another interview set up early May. Person's running for council from Huntington Beach, and they were really happy, and God knows I'm happy to have them. So yeah, people are sort of like applaud really nicely, and so I mean I think I'm clearly onto something. What I can do with it's a different question. And I've got thoughts about that, but they're still the here and now. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is I know about this. I can repeat the stuff that the real DJs do, but that's until then I'm just the cheap imitation. But yeah, not much going on. I'd say Monday. I'm kind of congested, drinking that post-nasal drip stuff. So I'm trying to dry out, and once I really would like to go till at least 3 before I cut out. But again, whatever it is, it will be better than the last one that I did. I mean, I can clearly tell I'm getting better. But quoting Deion Sanders again, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And yet with enough demand, there will be. But I don't know, just one foot in front of the other. You can get to ride this week. Yeah, well, that's what feels good this time of year. It does seem a little cool with a 50-mile-an-hour headwind. We have some damn sure warm up while I got out there and worked on the deck. Oh yeah, I mean if the deck takes another day or two for that reason, then I think it's a good trade off.
take it if you need it. Okay. Good deal. I appreciate it. Good. Anything comes up, let me know. I'll do the same. Thanks. Take care. Bye. And we apologize for that brief interruption and telephone call, but when my brother calls in, I always take the call because, you know, you never know when's the last time you might get that call or see somebody. So when somebody I know is calling through, if at all possible, I take their calls right then and there. I guess the only thing worse than hearing your host sneeze is seeing him sneeze and blow his nose. So you guys out there in Democracy Radio Network land get to watch your somewhat semi-savvy political host, Abby Kaufman, at the democracyradionetwork.com, and give us a call at 949-629-3820 and share your thoughts and let us know what's going on in your world. You're a farmer? Like, what do you do for a living? How have gas prices and everything else affected you? Have your supplies, whatever they might be, gone up? Can you get them? How's the supply chain? While those may seem like international topics, the truth of the matter is that they hit home every day to each one of us. I would really like to know why that is, but let's see how this thing. I just maybe it's working as. Oh, there it is. I'm sure it's working as it is. We've got some nice equipment. We've got a 4th generation Scarlett 2i2, which is just tons of help. And we've got a VoIP number. We have a Zoiper 5. And Zoiper 5 to me sounds like some kind of maybe some advanced video game of some sort. Zoiper. I mean, I don't know if I would want to be. I don't know if I would feel about having my Zoiper examined, but who knows? Maybe you don't have a problem with it. I'm kind of personal testy about my personal Zoiper, but anyway. And that an old Three Dog Night song? Zoiper to the world. Oh no, that's Joy to the world. Sorry, Zoiper. But there you have it. That's what I think of Zoiper 5. And turning back locally, I'm a member of the Costa Mesa Democrats, the Newport Beach Women's Democratic Club, because I live in Corona Del Mar, which is in Newport Beach. And the Laguna Beach Democrats. I'll tell you a funny story about the Laguna Beach Democrats. I had on my calendar Democratic Club Laguna Beach Thursday night. I think it was April 16th. So I pack up after our broadcast and go down to Laguna Beach. And I find a place that they've always had the Democratic meetings. And it's funny, I don't really seem like it looks familiar, but you know, maybe that's just how they do things. And when I walked up, I noticed it was like set in, you know, instead of rows of chairs, they had tables with chairs and tablecloths, a little candle, and it looked kind of nice. So they what, you know, I don't know what they're doing here, but you know, I'm just so new. Maybe I don't know. And so I sit down. Some of the extremely attractive women that were there would come up and chat. And one woman says, "Oh, I'm the co-founder of this organization. I'm Debbie." I'm like, "Really? How are you?" So we chat for a few minutes, and then the meeting starts. I'm getting a little uneasy, but you know, lots of pretty women. So I'm, pretty happy to be there. And then this guy, she says, "Oh, this is a really good guy. Looks kind of like Mr. Clean, but he's going to start the whatever off with a Native American chant." And I'm like, fine. We really wiped those guys out. We hunted them like dogs. We committed genocide against the Native Americans. If they're here, God knows they're welcome. So the guy does a little, Native American flute thing with, touch your hand or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't usually deal well with stuff like that. But all of a sudden, I realized that they start talking about death and dying. And the magic light goes on with the suggestion that, oh, maybe you shouldn't be here. So I lean over and so Debbie, I'm convinced I'm not supposed to be here. And she says, well, why? And I told her that, I thought this was the Laguna Beach Democratic Club meeting. And she just kind of laughed. And I left my plate on the table and backed out as quickly as I could. My thought on death and dying is, avoid it as long as you can. As long as, things are going well. I know sometimes when, you're terminally ill, you can't go soon enough, in which case I think there's an obligation to help. But then, I always think there's an obligation to help, which is the fundamental difference between why Republicans act and why Democrats act. Republicans usually act in the interest of a few. Democrats tend to act in the interest of the many. And, it's funny how everything seems to turn back to morals and all that. But clearly helping is a moral imperative, as I understand, religions on earth. And I'm not super knowledgeable on any of this stuff, but there are threads throughout history. And to kind of condense things, a guy named Neil Saavedra from KFI has this theory that I believe to be true, that good people create and bad people destroy. So if good people create and bad people destroy, then there's some moral imperative to creating and being a good person. And what you see is that Republicans just don't, they're not consistent with that. And God knows if we have one thing to do, it should be to help others. Without that, you've kind of sown the seeds for a very decadent society, which is, strangely enough, what we have now. And, I say when somebody's just a worthless POS, sometimes you just got to tell them. And I am clearly not bashful about calling on the Republicans for the hypocrisy that they practice on a glaring basis day after day after day. I mean, it's not like these guys, have time off for good behavior. They don't have any good behavior. So they work overtime at helping advance their own little interests. Antithetical to what the U.S. stands for. What's that on the quarter? E pluribus unum, out of many, one. There's a woman running for state assembly, Ada Rosenio, who is the American story. Immigrant, worked hard, chair of the Democratic Party, now wanting to run for office. I mean, she's made a difference. And I think that's another way to look at things. Number one, has the candidate made a difference in your life in any way? And if so, has it been for the better or for the worse? And if it's for the better, then let's vote for him or her. If they're for the worse, well, sometimes it's just, you just come in second. It happens. But the key thing that this is all based on is clean elections. And because we run clean elections, Trump's claim about the 2024 election being rigged and stolen is a big lie. As a matter of fact, it's a big enough lie that it gets its own title as the big lie. And at that moment, and we knew Trump had been sowing a little doubt about elections, but at that moment just crystallized everything. He lied, looking right at the television. What do you do when somebody lies with a straight face? Well, when you figure it out, you get rid of them. And I would like to hope we're at that point of maybe getting rid of him. Now, I cannot underestimate the job ahead. How we begin to replace that brain train, that knowledge base that Trump fired, with a chainsaw. The guy's just a ham-handed loser. And it's even better now that his buddy Viktor Orban is a loser too. And of course, J.D. Vance. What do you say about this guy? He's been a fraud from day one, and but because he's their fraud, it's okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a double standard. What's fair, what's good for me is good for me, and what's fair for you is cheating. And the notion that only the Democrats cheat, could not be more off base. But if you ask Trump what day and time it was, he might tell you Wednesday 3:00 and it's Monday at 2. Some of us just does not care about being credible. And the truth is that having enough money will insulate you from things like that. It won't isolate you, but it will insulate you a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. That's when you are the everything. There's no opportunity to get a substitute guest host. If I have a substitute guest host, that means something is really wrong with me, and we hope to not get there during this broadcast. But do give us a call. It's 949-629-3820. And let us know what's going on in your section of the state, the country. Looking at the state of California, there are 60-something electoral districts. And, the state's huge, right? From San Diego to the Redwoods is probably 800 miles, 900 miles. And there are only 2 states above it, Washington and Oregon, as opposed to the 13 colonies on the East Coast, and then there's Florida and, God knows whatever else, the district. So California has a lot of power. We are the 6th largest economy in the world. California is not. It's not South Carolina. It's not Mississippi. It's not Alabama. California is a powerhouse. The question is how the powerhouse is used, and we know how we want it to be used. We know how it is used, and we all know it shouldn't be used in that way, which makes it all important that you give us a call and let us know what's going on. 949-629-3820. And if you're so inclined, we'd appreciate hitting the donate button. A little spaghetti dinner for Abby would be nice. I don't, not a very pretentious guy, but I do have this addiction to food, clothing, and shelter. So any help with food, clothing, or shelter would be really appreciated. We don't charge anybody to come on. We don't sell commercials. I don't do any of that stuff. I am here to help Democrats get elected and to be an aggressively pro-Democrat forum in whatever way we can help. I have no idea what all that is, but guys, we're trying our best to avoid it. Maybe we'll go have some hot soup for dinner, see if that helps. And we have no idea why this woman keeps joining me on whatever social media, but we are glad to have you. So let's see, Costa Mesa. And anybody been up to the Redwoods lately? Those guys are, those guys are fairly liberal, but they're also, kind of, how can I put this? Let's say they believe in the right of self-defense to an extreme degree, and have been known to have guns that are, highly destructive, which the Supreme Court said was okay, and go buy all the M16s or whatever it is you want. How sad is that? The Supreme Court denied the states the ability to impose reasonable restrictions on guns. After today with 8 kids in Louisiana, or yesterday with 8 kids in Louisiana being killed, and those few in Iowa at the University of Iowa, we just got to do something about these guns. I know my brother always says that the guns aren't, you don't have to make the guns illegal, just make the bullets illegal. And I think there's, generally recognized fault with that. But guys, you tell us what to do. How do we make this better? And you've got an instrumentality being used for mass deaths like guns, and you've got a Second Amendment that says more or less thou shalt have guns. And I don't mind that thou shalt have guns as long as they're like hunters and sportsmen and people like that. What I do object to is the people that have the wealthy people on Lido Isle, for instance, that have an arsenal because they're convinced that the have-nots are going to attack them on Lido Island and take their stuff. So they've got the biggest, baddest arsenal a private individual could buy. And if it's ever too much for an individual, then a few neighbors will get together, chip in, they'll hire some mercenaries. And that nice thought, your neighbors are hiring mercenaries to make sure that you don't come in and steal their stuff. And these mercenaries are like mercenaries with M16s and stuff that can cause a lot of harm. So we're not exactly in favor of that. Like I say, we'd much rather call us at 949-629-3820 and let us know what's going on in your world. We're closing in on the last 26 minutes of airtime. I'm going to cut out a little early. My throat's a little scratchy, and I'm trusting you guys will understand. Yeah, that old hot soup will feel good tonight. In case anybody's wondering, my preference for hot soup is the India Cafe on 19th Street in Costa Mesa. And it is, how can I put this? Right near the intersection of Harbor Boulevard and 19th Street. And if you're going up 19th from Harbor, it would be just a less than a block up. Next, in the same strip center, is a place called Social, which is kind of strange because I always feel social, but I never felt social there. And but the Cafe India is a great place. Those the guys are from Nepal. Shri, the waitress or server, is just a really kind person. Kim is the server. He's a nice guy. and there's the taller, older guy that cooks and owns the place whose name escapes me right now, but trying the Cafe India, 19th Street, Costa Mesa, California, and I guarantee you two things. I guarantee you'll like it, and I guarantee it'll be extremely reasonably priced. Uh, these guys aren't out to make a gajillion dollars on every given dish. I think their lentil soup just knocks me out every time. And as a matter of fact, I rarely order anything besides the lentil soup, which makes me seem kind of weird because I'm like the lentil soup guy again. But God knows it does make me feel good. And if it makes me feel good, I'll usually try to do it at least once. And while we're wrapping up these last few minutes, let's check the old. Oh, this is great. This is really great. Trump says ceasefire ends Wednesday evening, and it's highly unlikely he'll extend. And what happens if you don't extend there, Donald? Huh? Thought about that? And here's a little snippet from CNN. I won't read it for you, but I will mention the headline. Analysis. Even Trump's most basic claims about the Iran war can't be trusted. Geez, is that a shock? The guy who invented the big lie? And you're going to say you can't trust him? Don't you think there's something a little off about that situation? Or is it one you're pretty happy with? Let's see here. What is Trump's it's something about shrugging off his immaculate remarks. And I'm going to read a quote from a former National Security Council official posted on social media. And I quote, "One of the big differences between the current round of U.S.-Iran diplomacy and prior rounds is that this administration, and the president in particular, are unreliable narrators." How about that? Some of it's just lies. I mean, you can't. It's the worst possible. He is the worst possible person with the worst possible character traits to represent us, period, much less at this time. I said the guy's just a weasel. The ballroom is national security feature. And by the way, ballroom is one of those words that always makes a guy laugh. And, if you ask a guy if he wants ballroom, he'll probably say, yeah. Every guy, I think, wants a little ballroom to, swing around in. But, and I think they should have it. That's what they want, ballroom. Now, if they want that ballroom. Now, doesn't that remind you of the policeman's ball? I didn't know quite what it was when my granddad would tell me, I had to buy a couple of tickets to the policeman's ball. And it would be funny if they actually had a policeman's ball, but that was like code for bribery or extortion. I'm not gonna. I would sure be ashamed if something happened and police didn't respond, or your window got broken in your business, and be ashamed if anything happened. And that the first one is to throw the Molotov cocktail. And like we said, Trump will set the fire and then try to collect the reward to put it out. And then try to make money on rebuilding. I mean, it's just such an incredible piece of sleaze that it's not any wonder people don't like him, don't trust him. He's unlikable and untrustworthy. So you kind of, I guess that's an example of reaping what you sow, or sowing whatever you can sow. I mean, just, guys, it's time. It's time to mobilize. It's time to help. It's time to act. Let's mobilize for our local politicians and change this situation from the bottom up. We can do it. I mean, I'm going to tell you, what if this? What if we had, and I'm going to go out on a limb, what if we had like 65 Senate seats? There's 100, so that's a little shy of 2/3. And as a coincidental matter, it takes a vote of 2/3 for to override vetoes in the Senate or to exercise the 25th Amendment. And if you got 65 Democrats, I'd be shocked if there weren't one or two Republican senators that sneak over and that would see the value in impeaching in convicting Trump. The value in impeachment. There's no real value in impeachment without any enforcement. And I say McConnell didn't vote to impeach him after January 6th. Think about that. This is the guy that stole a Supreme Court seat from Barack Obama using logic that it's insane. And the Supreme Court pick belongs to the president if he's got 2 weeks or 4 years left. You stalled and you connived, you lied, you did everything possible, Mitch. Are you gonna get a moment's peace in heaven? Maybe not. Maybe there's a price to be paid for that kind of thievery. And obviously, politicians like you don't care about it, but there are others who would like to see you pay a cost for that, pay a price for that. And if all goes well, we will be there soon. And talking about kind of local politics, but on the other coast, in South Carolina, you may notice, and there have been two senators for a while. One was Lindsey Graham, the other was Tim Scott. And you can kind of consider Tim Scott the token black guy, and you can kind of consider Graham the lackey or the toady that just gets off on being near power. Graham's just been a Trump enabler since the beginning, and his tactics leave a little to be desired. I really think he's not going to be reelected, and I don't know if Scott is up for reelection or not, but I believe it to be the case. I can't swear to it. I don't know if it's true. But I think that Tim Scott's support, financial support, comes from some a well-off Charleston, South Carolina family, and and nobody can contribute like a billionaire can contribute. So I would hope that Scott is a little more than that family's guy in Congress, but at that pay grade with that kind of money behind you, God only knows. Oh, and I tell you what else God only knows is if you have anything to say, give us a call at 949-629-3820. And we'll tell you a little bit about our upcoming visit with Kelly Brown. And we talked with Aaron Spivey from Huntington Beach, who will be a guest in the next probably 2 weeks. These elections and running for office take time. We've got a primary coming up in the special election in California, so we're going to be really busy, and I just hope people can take the time off because I've said this a gajillion times. Please forgive me, but we are in an all hands on deck situation. We need every Democrat and every independent and everything pulling our way on the rope, because you know what happens with Trump and his rope. Uh, the guy will just he'll do anything to cheat and win. He'd rather be a crooked winner than an honest loser, and I think that's antithetical to America. I think in America we stand on our own 2 feet, like George Washington, who could not lie about the cherry tree, like honest Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves. And this is unlike Donald Trump, who claims to have been done more for African Americans and Black Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln, who gave them their freedom. After a while, you become desensitized to the ravings of a lunatic. How insane does the insane guy have to be before you recognize that he's insane in the first place? And you've got Trump's spiritual advisor comparing him to Jesus. Now, this is Jesus who fed the hungry, healed the sick, clothed the naked. And apparently Trump has trouble with this guy. I'm not really sure how that can be. Well, actually, I am pretty sure. When you have the type of people that Trump has around him, telling him how great and fallible and wise and everything else he is, it's easy to believe him. And if you hear it or not, you might just think you're deserving of a flowing white robe with a red prayer shawl and the eternal light of God in your hand. To everybody else, it looks like you're a cheap poser and hypocrite. And I would bet that's the side that's right on this deal. So it's Trump operates on just so many different levels, and he corrupts people down the ballot. He has corrupted people down the ballot, which is why you really can't vote for any Republican, because you're just never sure what rules or what laws they will choose to obey and which ones they won't. And then they have their guy who enforces them against those who in their imaginations don't. And the whole situation is just about tyrannical, and it's clearly more tyrannical than the founders ever established. The other day, one of the Trump lawyers made the argument that the Presidential Records Act is unconstitutional because Congress can't tell the president what to do with those records. And I'm like, the hell they can't. If you had your version, your guy would be free to take everything and then sell it, because you say that the president ought to have his records. Well, no, they're not his records. They're the country's records. The records belong to the people of the United States, not to the president. Like this Pam Bondi subpoena thing. It subpoenaed Pam Bondi. It didn't subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. And even if it did, it's former Attorney General Pam Bondi. There's nothing relevant that changes her status as a potential witness. Of course, she'll probably lie and cheat and steal also, but if you expect anything other than lying, cheating, and stealing, you haven't really paid attention for the last 10 years maybe. So just a little more about the current situation. But anyway, we'll be doing if you can even volunteer to stuff a few ballots or whatever it is you feel like stuffing, go down to your local Democratic club. And it would be nice to join. I think most of them are, $20 or so. I think one might be, I think the expensive ones might stray up to the $50 range. But this is one time where the voices of the many can drown out the voices of the few. And the Republican positions are clearly minority positions. Whether the Republican Party cares about that's an entirely different question. But the truth of the matter is, it may not be Armageddon. It may not be the ultimate showdown between good and evil. But this is 2026 is a very important battle along the way. And that's how wars are won. You win you win a battle at a time. And sometimes you take enough land to hold. And then you do it again and again and again. So let's be a little, and I don't want to, I'm certainly never a fan of Pretty Boy, Pistol Pete, Kegseth, but you can't let this guy go talk about like holy wars and, Jesus for the victors. And I mean, it's just antithetical to what religion is. I know there may be some argument as to a just war. And I know there's a whole lot of smiting, and whatever it is they did in the Old Testament. But we're here now. We're here in 2026. And we're here in 2026 with things like laptops that can leverage our efforts. We're here with cell phones. We can blast text messages. We have resources. I'm going to say that again. We have resources. Using them effectively will define the next few years. And by extension, if we do win this 2026 and make life better for people, we will roll the Republicans again in 2028, and there may not be another Republican president for 50 years. I honestly think Trump has messed things up so badly that even though the fruits haven't come all the way home to bear, that as time goes on, things are more likely to get worse than better. And Trump's one of those guys who can't back down and get out of his own way if his life depended on it. Which begs the question: you elected this guy? I mean, that's what the Europeans are saying is, you elected this guy? And there's a boatload of people. There's like 340 million people in America, and, maybe half of that will vote. But within that, there's always been that subcategory of a Trump voter that you wouldn't expect to be a Trump voter, like Hispanics for Trump or Latinos for Trump or whatever it was. I mean, if there was ever a group that was getting picked on in the wrong end of the deal, it was immigrants, particularly immigrants from the Southern Hemisphere. So what do? You just got to make him go away. You have to make him go away. Make him disappear. And as I see things, the starting point is a huge majority win over whatever Democrat candidate runs for president in 2026 or 2028 rather. Sorry. Since 2024, since Trump won the election, it's been such a disheartening time that time really does seem to start dragging. Guys, we are going to try our best to hang in there for another 6 minutes till the old clock hits 3. And we will load up the truck, move to Beverly like the old, like them old Beverly hillbillies. Let's see, head them up. Let me tell you about a man named Chad, poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. All day long he was shooting some food, went up through the ground, became a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Black gold. Texas tea. So the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. And the kinfolk said, Jed, you got to move away from there. So what they say? They said, California is the place you ought to be. So you know what they did next? They loaded up that old truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools and movie stars. Oh, the Beverly Hillbillies, who could forget? I guess people that never saw them might never know, but that, that, ladies and gentlemen, that could be like one of the high points of Hollywood was the Beverly Hillbillies. But then again, you know, you got stuff like the Munsters and you know all that stuff. That's just Comet Car 54. Where are you? You know all that great stuff. My personal favorite was Married with Children. You know, Al. That was what's his name? Ed O'Neill. And Ed's a good guy, a decent liberal guy from Youngstown, Ohio. You know, there's some people that were just brought up so honestly that it permeates them in every way. And Ed, growing up as you know a young tough guy in Youngstown, Ohio, you can see where he still got that sense to know who's lying to him or who's putting him on, who's BSing him and who's not. So yeah, if anybody gets a chance, little Married with Children never hurt anybody, as did a little Beverly Hillbillies. Let's see what else we have to talk about today. You know, the weather's getting a little cool out here. And you know, even in the summertime, the breeze blows and it's really cool here in Southern California. And I'm going to, and can we do one thing, please? Can we please tell companies to not make their stores so cold, especially in the winter? I mean, every place I go, you know, the outside I'm fine in shorts and a shirt, and I go inside, whether it's to Starbucks or to the library, or whatever, and it is just freezing. And in case you can tell, that may not have helped my congestion one bit in the world. So we're just going to keep sneezing for another minute or two and work our way to the magic appointed hour of 3 o'clock. And at that point, you're somewhat savvy, even though that would be kind of quasi, wouldn't it? Your quasi political host, Abby Kaufman, and you know why that sounds familiar. And we invite everybody to tune in tomorrow at noon time and do my best to make it till 4. Let's say illness is kind of an exceptional spot for me. I have to address it on some level because I feel, you know, I have to be on my best for you guys. And if I'm not my best, I really, I'm not happy with myself because I didn't deliver my best at a time when I'm asking you to get involved, to walk, to canvass, to solicit, to make phone calls, to stuff envelopes. Just please do something to be somewhat invested. You'll find the people you work with interesting. You'll find that they are your type of people. And then when you work with your type of people, you realize that what an advantage that is when you want to come to replace someone, to have an entire unit working in concert for that same result. And if there's ever time for a bunch of politicians and political party to hit the road, it's Donald Trump and friends. Which is, you know, kind of funny in itself. Trump doesn't have friends. He only has people he's taken advantage of, and people he's taken advantage of more. I don't think he's got a, you know, like a real friend. And oh, by the way, just And does anyone still believe that that Trump did nothing at Epstein Island? You know, once again, Trump just strains credulity and doesn't deserve where he is. And guys, with that in mind, I'm going to call it a day. I'm your somewhat savvy political host, Abby Kaufman, and we're going to sign off a little early at 3 on Monday because I have a cold and I've got a ticket to attend to in a courthouse. So if there's ever reason to be a little understanding, it would be, so your host doesn't get thrown in jail or anything. I hope that's not the case for the dim parking light, but God only knows. Anyway, tune in tomorrow, noontime, and we'll let you know on our latest discoveries and check in with our political friends. In the meantime, democracyradionetwork.com wishes you a pleasant rest of the Monday, a great Tuesday, and we will see you then. Thanks, guys. Adios.